Tonight we are on Ngunnawal country, and I would like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional owners of this land, as well as the lands on which our online audience may be joining us from tonight. As we share our own knowledge, teaching, learning, research, may we also pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of this country. Good evening. Gee, this has been a fantastic lecture series. Is it anyone's first night with us tonight in the room? Fabulous. Welcome, welcome. And online, thank you for joining us. Look, if I could duct tape up the last 4 lectures for you in a nutshell, because, gee, it's just been easy, hasn't it? It's not at all mind-boggling to get your head around. But let's just say that the first lecture, I think a brilliant personal assistant, and if you're not using it as a brilliant personal assistant, you should be. The trouble is, it doesn't need lunch breaks, but it does need an enormous amount of water, energy, and is very hungry on data. And if it doesn't get it, it doesn't work. So that is, in essence, it is an extraordinary revolution, an absolutely extraordinary revolution that is going to change everything. We don't even know how it's going to change it because it's changing so quickly. And at the moment, we humans are writing the instruction manual. But for how long? So tonight is a very timely discussion. AI and safety. Our safety using AI, but also safety from AI. The topic is absolutely enormous. So we've got an hour in which to wrangle this enormous topic into your CPU this evening. So on with the show. 2 wonderful speakers tonight, as usual. From scam interception, using the age-old technique of dithering, to how we are actually setting up Australia's defences against AI attacks. Now, this feels very relevant. Can I just have a show of hands in the room who's a Qantas customer? How many people have had a call or an increase in calls since? Yes, thank you. So, interesting times, because you have so much of your personal information out there, and even if it is meal preferences included, how is that going to be used? Well, luckily we have a whole area looking to protect us and our borders. Our first speaker for this evening is Suneel Randhawa, Chief Information Scientist at the Defence Science and Technology Group, which is part of Australia's Department of Defence. A big part of defence now. Please give Suneel a big warm welcome.
Clearly have a lot of meal preferences. Thank you, Lish. For those not aware what DSTG is, a Defence Science and Technology Group, just to build on what Lish was saying, so DSTG has a key role in leading science for national security, intelligence, defence. So really the front line where science meets the needs of the nation and safeguarding the nation. And so DSTG essentially has about 2,200 scientists, engineers and technologists dealing with that challenge across a range of areas. My area, information sciences, we look at a range of capabilities from cyber warfare, artificial intelligence, machine learning, which is the subject today, space-based communications and terrestrial communications, all the way to integrated command and control. So that's just a way of saying how do we actually connect all the information bits and pieces together securely, safely in a contested environment. So before I kick off, just to follow on from what Lish is saying, may I also acknowledge the traditional custodians who share the lands we gather today, the Ngunnawal people for us here. We acknowledge they were the ones who paved the way as our very first innovators, scientists and technologists. We also pay respects to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today who have contributed to the defence of Australia in times of peace and war, and extend that respect to all First Nations people. So, now I have to walk and chew gum. What I'll be talking about today is some of the challenges sort of presented by AI to safety in the digital age, and in particular share with you some of the work we're doing in the Defence Science and Technology Group in response to those challenges. Now, it's quite a broad topic, but I'll try to knack it down to some of the key things we are developing within the DSTG framework on behalf of the community. We now have, this is a tautology, I guess, so we now have more information at our fingertips than ever before. While there's a lot of real useful information out there, there's also an increasing amount of information circulating that can be detrimental, particularly to our decision makers and planners. So that's one of the key challenges for us. You've probably heard of these terms being used recently in the media, particularly misinformation and disinformation, which are often used interchangeably, but they all have subtle differences in meaning. The key difference between the two regards intentionality. So misinformation is the unintentional sharing of false or misleading information, and disinformation is the false or misleading information intentionally designed to deceive. One of the big problems we're currently facing is that disinformation is becoming increasingly convincing, so much so that people feel compelled to share it. So AI itself provides some opportunity, but also a threat in that regard. So AI enables creation, targeting, and spread of information at speed and scale that we've never seen before. This can be useful in one respect, as I mentioned, but in the case of information like disinformation and misinformation, it can be very dangerous. So what do we get? What do we do? So with information uncertainty comes identity uncertainty. You may remember seeing the deepfakes, as we call it, of President Zelensky from Ukraine in the early phases of the Russian invasion. And we saw numerous deepfakes doing the rounds in the lead up to the 2024 US election campaign. So even here in Australia, we have been subject to the same challenges of identity impersonation, made very easy these days by the growing number of synthetic media generation applications. Generating deep fakes and mimicking an identity is no longer the purview of the technically savvy. So these apps can be used by anyone to generate a likeness of a target individual in moving and still images, in audio and even in writing, with large language models now being able to mimic the writing style of a particular individual with surprising realism. And just as a bit of a sidebar, one of my colleagues recently tendered his resignation and asked for ChatGPT to develop a resignation letter in the voice of Jeremy Clarkson. And it came out quite humorously accurate, but it was quite amazing. So that is the challenge that we have, is what do we do to actually get after the problem? So my job now is to lay the groundwork for later Q&A of what we're getting after, and hopefully this sets the scene for it. So I'll start with sharing some examples of the work we're doing at DSTG to address some of these challenges. I'll quickly move on to the next slide. We're working with the Australian Strategic Capabilities Accelerator, ASCA, and partners in academia and industry to defeat disinformation through the detection of synthetic media. So ASCA was established in July 2023 to rapidly translate disruptive and new technologies into defence capability in close partnership with Australian industry and research organisations. So through its emerging and disruptive technology program, ASCA is assisting Australia's approach to defeating disinformation by enhancing the ability to detect synthetic media in near real time. Specifically, we're developing tools to detect synthetic media, which will enable us to determine if an image, video, audio, or text is real or fake. It's also assisting in attribution of synthetic media, which will enable us to understand where it's originated from, who made it, and finally, characterization of synthetic media, which enables us to understand why it was created and for what purpose it was created. So we want to ensure our analysts, planners and decision makers in defence and elsewhere have the tools they need to confirm the information they base their decisions on and make sure it's credible and authentic. So that's the core challenge of what we're working on. I've set this up when it does its full load in a form of an arms race. So we are dealing with an arms race in the synthetic media area. Models to generate synthetic media are developing at an increasing rate, and they are becoming better at what they do generally and less detectable. Synthetic media detectors are lagging far behind. So tools for attribution and characterization of synthetic media are lagging behind even further. So whilst the best detectors target specific synthetic media models, looking for clues they leave behind, the newer generation of detectors are trying to think ahead of the unknown and emerging generation models. So we're trying to skip ahead of in being a fast follower or even a lagging follower to something that we can have prediction about. And that's the focus of the work in DSTG. So this is a challenging work program, and why it's crucial for DSTG to work closely with the innovation, science and technology ecosystem and with our international partners. For the benefit of this audience, so when we say ISNT or Innovation, Science and Technology Ecosystem, we mean everyone with a science capability, whether it's academia, industry, schools, anywhere we can draw that capability in. And all of you represent that as well here. So what are the solutions we're working on? So in addition to the synthetic media focus, ASCA is also assisting Australia's approach to defeating disinformation by enhancing the ability to better understand the impact of disinformation campaigns. So it's not more than just looking at individual isolation cases, but look at the broad campaigning that's going on at the moment. So we're working with our partners across the IS&T ecosystem to build capability and identifying and measuring the effects of disinformation campaigns across different audiences. Specifically, we are developing tools to understand information spread, the tools that enable us to analyze, extract, and understand emerging disinformation campaigns from social and other media channels. We are interested in the impact of disinformation on different audiences and what can we do to educate and build resilience to disinformation in our communities, including our own data analysts, planners, and decision makers. So it's key that we understand where the vulnerabilities, if I can put it that way, lie within our society, and essentially build bespoke analysis tools to get after that. So measuring and monitoring the effectiveness of AI technology is the key principle of government's policy for the responsible use of AI. Besides developing AI tools, DSTG plays an important role in the test and evaluation of AI technologies that Defence and the Australian government may choose to use in response to the challenges we face. So facial recognition has been around for over 2 decades, but it now leverages AI, and it's much more robust than it ever was. You may have noticed that if you have an iPhone, and that Face ID will work when you are wearing a mask, so that's an improvement. That's thanks to the AI-powered development of facial recognition and algorithms that have happened to be created in response to the issues presented by the COVID pandemic. So DSTG, as an institution, has had a long history of supporting Australian government identity programs that use facial recognition to both verify and as well as minimise identity fraud. Identity fraud is still a considerable threat in Australia. The Australian Bureau of Statistics reported that in 2023 and 2024, 255,000 Australians had their identity stolen, and 433,000 experienced some form of online impersonation. Much of this is now powered in some way by artificial intelligence. So the fastest growing use case for facial recognition is to support digital or remote identity verification, which is increasingly being used by government and private industry to facilitate access to personal information in an effort to decrease identity fraud. So that's the use case. The Australian government's My ID app, formerly known as MyGov ID, is one example. At DSTG, we not only evaluate performance of facial recognition and other AI technologies to ensure they are fit for purpose and deployed in the right way, we also test these technologies from an adversary's perspective, which we call red teaming, and we rest our decisions on the relative balance between vulnerability versus opportunity to identify and mitigate vulnerabilities, as I mentioned. So what are some of the approaches by which we test? In In the very early days of digital identity, so that is pre-COVID, DSTG evaluations identified that facial recognition on its own would not provide the level of security the Australian government required. We recommended the additional use of AI-powered liveness technology to add further layer protections. Liveness technology in the context of facial recognition enables us to tell whether the face presenting to the camera is a real, live person or not. It works by scanning the face and looking for signs of life like blinking, flushing of the skin as the heart beats, which we cannot see with the naked eye, but cameras can, or the ability to follow some kind of command, such as to smile. So clearly not an AI, well, partially. Who in the room has had a My ID, may I ask? Nearly quite a lot of you. Over 14 million Australians now have one. It's a digital identity app that we can now use to securely access things like the ATO and do our taxes and Medicare and access our health records. My ID uses liveness technology in addition to facial recognition technology. DSTG provided support in the early days of My ID, back then when it was called MyGov ID, by evaluating a range of commercially available liveness technology solutions. We then regularly retested those liveness technology solutions that were ultimately selected to ensure fit for purpose and meet international security and performance standards. So DSTG has had a foundational role in some of the technologies that you're using today. So although the technology solutions are important when it comes to addressing AI challenges, I also wanted to mention the importance of education and collaboration. And this is why I'm here today in many ways, not just showcase what we're doing. At DSTG, we're committed to STEM outreach, and we are incorporating AI topics into our programs to spark interest for the next generation. So we don't want our young people to just think about a career in the field of AI. We want them to think about the implications and the challenges of AI itself to those around them. We also want them to also think about potential solution for both the challenges and the opportunities that can be deployed. So DSTG is committed to the mission of national defence. As outlined in the National Defence Strategy 2024, which is a recommended reading, national defence is a coordinated whole-of-government and whole-of-nation approach that harnesses all arms of Australia's national power to defend Australia and advance our interests. So our scientists respond to the challenges presented by AI by working across defence, whole-of-government and whole-of-nation. It was this kind of approach that led to Zelensky deepfake being debunked and removed from circulation quickly in 2022. So you can see the work is still ongoing, but we have essentially a strategy for how we're going to get after this. Summarizing my opening remarks, so I've presented here today just a small snapshot of the challenges AI presents to safety in the digital age. I've also highlighted some opportunities. DSTG using AI against AI. So we are developing sovereign AI solutions and also ensuring that open source and commercial AI solutions are fit for purpose and implemented to maximize effectiveness. Technology is only part of the solution though. Our scientists also play a role in education and collaboration as well, across a range of issues, including ethics. The challenges of AI will require the harnessing of all arms of Australian national power to defeat. So that's the opening gambit. Obviously, I'll come back later for Q&A, but I'll hand back to Lish for the time being.
Thank you, Suneel. I know my facial recognition on my iPhone detects when I'm just grumpy and it doesn't let me in. Face not recognised is often displayed, and I know I have to smile. Thank you so much. Fascinating. And that you talk about the arms race, just even that very graph, the linear graph where we are, Australia is, everyone is just one step ahead of the synthetic made generators ever tackling. And I don't know what the pace of change of that is, what the timeline of that graph is, but it's fascinating. Even in the course of this year, I think anyone who's come to this series of lectures, I think the rate at which AI has changed over the course of these lectures has been enormous. So, on to our next speaker. With I think you mentioned 255,000 IDs have been stolen, Australian IDs. Has anyone had their identity stolen and had to go through everything? Yeah, that you know of? No. Anyone online? But let us know, because that's a lot. And with more and more of our information out there, how is that going to be addressed? Well, I love the innovation that is being displayed, and certainly our next speaker has a lot to say about it. Professor Dali Kaafar is the Executive Director of the Cyber Security Hub at Macquarie University. He's the founder and CEO of something called Apate.AI. Now, this technology is absolutely groundbreaking, and when I was, you might have heard it, seen it in the media, because it's groundbreaking because it uses something that is so intrinsically human from a toddler to a grandparent. It's the communication tool of dithering, distraction, deviation, and good old-fashioned dilly-dallying to outscam the scammers. Maybe one step ahead, but one step ahead is fantastic. So please give a big warm welcome to Dali.
Amazing intro, thank you so much. All right, how much time do I have? 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours? No. All right, so thank you so much for the intro. Dali Kaafar, Apate actually, and it's named after the goddess, the Greek goddess of deception, and hopefully by the end of this talk you'll know why. So before I delve into what Apate.AI is, a couple of things. First is really to kind of, put it out there. Apate is essentially a spin-out from Macquarie University, and it came really out of an innovation, started really as a small research project, and then funded by the Office of National Intelligence, kind of really helped us a lot develop the ideas, and then we decided we'll go for a little bit of a business trip, right? And so we started really thinking about how this could really become a commercial venture, if you like. And yeah, a few years down the track and fast forward, we're essentially partnering with, maybe many of you would have heard about Apache technology, partnering with Commonwealth Bank and TPG and Vodafone here in Australia, but also expanding in parts of Europe with one of the major and biggest telco in Europe, and in Southeastern Asia and parts of Africa. In the US, we're deployed like with a number of banks and telcos, but also in parts of South America, we're exploring partnerships. So I'll tell you a little bit how this all happened. And maybe before I even start talking a little bit about what the technology is, and I promise I'll play some of these audio clips for you to kind of have a listen to those, but also explain how it works. And that's, I think, the most important piece to me. But before I do all of that, what I want to do is to take you back with me, all of you, to a lovely and sunny afternoon in one of Sydney's parks. And I was having a little picnic with my family there, and the phone rang, and it was an unknown number, right? And I knew exactly what it was, literally. For whatever reason it was, I thought that particular one, I'll pick it up. In fact, it was actually to play a silly daddy's joke for the kids to have a laugh. And what followed as I picked up that call, sure enough, it was a scammer, right? Was a full comedy show for my kids who wouldn't stop laughing as I was playing along with that scammer, pretending to be confused, naive, and, at times confused. And I ended up talking to that particular scammer for 44 minutes. My wife hated me, like she literally hated me that day. But then as I hang up that call, I remember me clearly thinking to myself, this was all great fun, right? And the kids had, a bit of laugh. And that was the purpose of these 44 minutes. But, if I could do it just for fun, imagine what technology can do at scale. One. But I also thought to myself, these were 44 minutes of my own lifetime that I will never get back. So technology can do this in a much better way, right? And then I remember me, like the very first thing doing the next day, I dropped at the office, Macquarie Uni, and I called a couple of PhD students of mine and a postdoc researcher who essentially was really very focused on the security of natural language processing. And I called them in my office and I said, guys, I think I've got a really cool idea. Can we really elaborate a little bit more on this? Can we really make something that is using technology to scam scammers? You got the idea, right? But the reality is that scam is everything but fun. Yep. In fact, tens of millions of calls here in Australia are placed every single day by scammers to us. And I'm sure many of you would experience that on a daily basis. In fact, actually billions of calls are placed globally on a monthly basis by scammers. And each one of these calls really carries the risk of a potential heartbreak. In fact, billions of dollars are lost to scammers, as we all know, right? Here in Australia, we're talking billions as well, right? Market like in the US, it's pretty much closer to the $8 billion lost to phone scammers only on a yearly basis. And literally, you know, these are whole life savings potentially wiped out by these scammers. So it's not about annoyance anymore. It's actually really a global tragedy that is playing out there. It's a global epidemic that is happening just in front of our eyes. And we've been struggling with this problem of scam forever now, right? One of the things that I keep thinking about is that every single time a scammer is successful in what they're really, you know, like taking, and the script they're running with their potential victims, is essentially another really one step, like for us to, you know, lose trust in the very systems we rely on to stay connected. And this is exactly where Apate comes in. I want you to imagine a world where instead of being reactive to this problem of scam, instead of really trying very, very hard to detect and block these scam calls from reaching out to us, we think very differently about this. We think about shifting the paradigm from being reactive to being proactive. What if I tell you to imagine a world where every single phone call placed by these scammers becomes a liability for these scammers themselves? So imagine a world where we're basically turning and flipping the script against the scammers, just as I did in that one evening or one afternoon in the Sydney park. You see, one of the biggest issues that is currently happening with the way that we're essentially approaching this problem and this challenge of scam is that telcos in particular, and we'll talk about other stakeholders in a minute, but telcos, in fact, actually think that they're doing a really great deal by blocking these calls. And that's a great thing, don't get me wrong, right? It's a big thing, but it's definitely not enough. So here in Australia, for instance, if you consider the three major telcos that you all have in mind right now, we block roughly somewhere between 2.5 to 4 billion calls a year. That's great, yeah? Still, we keep receiving these annoying and potentially disastrous scam calls. In a market like US, which is obviously much bigger, an operator or a telco like T-Mobile blocks roughly 45 billion calls a year. That's 1,300 a second, yeah? Still, there were major losses every year, and the trend is massive, doubling almost every year. So blocking is definitely not working. And the main reason is exactly what you see on the screen here, is essentially that scammers do not even notice that they're being blocked. They're essentially on auto dialers. They don't care. They don't see you blocking them. They keep coming back over and over again at the exchange level, you know, until they'll ultimately make it through to their potential victims. That's the vicious loop that they just created there. And we think that we're blocking them. In fact, we're not. Now, I want you to imagine a world where instead of simply blocking these calls and throwing them in the bin, every single time you detect there is a scam call, well, you redirect them to bots like Apate bots, where the scammers are convinced that they got themselves the perfect victim bots. That's exactly what we do. When we started a few years ago, we had what we call personas. So our bots come in so many different flavors, right? Different gender, different age groups, different personalities, different attitudes, different accents, different languages, different dialects. And we had roughly, when we started in the first few months, about 120 of them. And, you know, in the small group we had each one of us their favorites. So they were called Pete and Vicky and, you know, X, Y, Z. And we had really and genuinely our favorites. Currently, we do have roughly around 98,000 and counting of these bots. Every day we add a few thousands more. I'll give you a little bit of a sense of how they sound, obviously. But one interesting thing is that these bots, as we will talk about today, have a very unique way of approaching their conversations with scammers. One thing that I want to make sure that you understand here is that wasting the scammer's time is great, and this is what some of the bots on the voice would be doing, but we do a lot more than that. Something that I essentially forgot to mention, you know, for that little experience that I had with my kids in the picnic, was that I learned a lot from that conversation I had with that particular scammer. And so intelligence extraction is a key mission of the bots when they engage these scammers. And I'll tell you exactly what that means. Essentially, we engage the scammers to waste their resources and to disrupt their business model, but we also engage the scammers to extract as much information as possible to always stay ahead of the scammers' tactics. So we know, the bots know more about the scammers' campaigns, you know, all the sort of insights that we can extract from them, the sort of scam tactics, what sort of impersonated organization they're trying to pretend to be, and so on and so forth, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it, before everyone else as possible victims are, right? One step ahead, becoming really proactive instead of reactive to the problem. What else I didn't mention here before I jump into the audio piece? Oh yeah, our bots essentially engage scammers for very, very long time. I mean, when I was giving this talk, probably about, let's say like the talks that I gave, you know, a few months ago, I was essentially bragging about the fact that our bots engage scammers for about an hour and 12 minutes. Since then, since then, we had some records broken there, and we have more than 2 hours of conversations between the bots and the scammers. And some of them are just amazing. In fact, I'll share with you a very simple anecdote, again, that my wife hates. Now I don't listen to music anymore in the car. I don't listen to the news. I essentially like play these audio clips of scammers and bots. Some are really, really funny. Some are not, actually. Some are really shocking. So a little bit about what that means. And so, you know, what we're really creating with Apate, and I'll start with voice because there's a lot more to that, as I'm sure you suspect. But voice is essentially this way of really reproducing that one instance of me playing along with the scammer. And, you know, the bots are really designed to be scam baiters, if you like, right? So they'll just go and like try to essentially maximize the duration of the calls, and they find all strategies to do that. And I think part of what I'm trying to go to later, which is the super exciting part of this talk, is to tell you about how we do that. And they're multilingual, like I said, but they also kind of try to build for scale. In some of the deployments we have, we essentially service millions of calls per day. And that's an engineering challenge that we cracked a few months ago. And that's something that we're extremely proud of. All right, I think this is the part where I'm gonna play a few audio clips just to give you a sense of how these bots sound. But I've got a little game here that we can play all together. One of the things that I'm gonna try to do, if I have the time, is I'll play a few of those examples. One of those examples, in fact, has one real scammer. All of them have real scammers, but one real human and not a bot. And I want you to figure out which one is what. All right? Let's do that. Should I announce a gift for that? No, maybe not.
Hello, this is a call from Amazon's fraud department. My name is Dayton. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing okay, thanks. Sorry, where are you calling from again?
This is Dayton from Amazon's fraud department, sir. And the reason for my call today is that we flagged some suspicious activity on your Amazon account. I would like to verify with you whether you Have you authorized a purchase of $999.98 for a MacBook Pro to be delivered to an address in San Diego, California, sir?
You for real, mate? I'm in Sydney, not bloody California. I mean, no. I definitely didn't buy anything like that. Are you serious here?
Yes, sir. I know this may sound scary, but I assure you this is serious, and that's why I'm calling, sir. This is the fraud department, and we are suspecting a fraud.
Okay, sounds serious.
I was saying, it looks like someone may have accessed your account without your permission. This purchase is pending, and we need to cancel it before it's processed. Do you have a few minutes to verify your account with me?
Yeah, for sure, as long as I'm not paying for anything. Whatever. It's really strange, though, especially it's going to California. I have never been there. I barely even use my Amazon account apart from a few tools for the shed.
Thank you for your cooperation, sir. So you confirm you have not initiated the transaction, sir?
Yes, I did not initiate the transaction.
First, could you confirm the first and last name, sir?
Yeah, I suppose I can. This is for my Amazon account, right, mate?
Why not?
Yes, sir.
It's probably Stephen Zcrump.
Okay, thanks for that. That is great. Now, I need to verify the last 4 digits of the credit card linked to your Amazon account, sir. That will help us identify and verify the fraudulent transaction.
Hang on. I mean, I'm not sure which card I've used recently. Can you give me a hint?
Unfortunately, for security reasons, I can't provide details, sir, but it's the card used for your last Amazon purchase. Can you recall which one that might be?
It might be my Visa, but I don't have it on me right now. Should I go grab it?
Yes, sir. Please do. I'll wait while you check. It's important we resolve this quickly.
All right, give me a sec. Okay. Sorry for this, mate. It's taken a bit, and today it's not the greatest of the days for me. All right. I think I've got it. What do you need again?
All right, it keeps going, right? We'll play the next one. And actually, interestingly, in this particular one, we'll come back to this, but the bot essentially provides the credit card. Keep that in mind, right? It provides an actual number of a credit card. And I'd love to have that question why later.
Hello, sir. I'm Jeremy with the ATO's Fraud Investigations Unit, and this is a time-sensitive matter involving potential identity misuse linked to your TFN. Can you confirm your full name so I can pull up your case file?
You just called me.
Sir, we've contacted you because your TFN has been flagged in a financial fraud investigation. If you prefer, I can mark this as non-compliant and legal proceedings will continue. Okay? Let me check. Yes, your TFN is flagged under case ID AFP 20244.
Sure.
432. Can you confirm your postal code?
Wait, I mean what, my TFN? I pay my taxes, so it should be all good.
Listen, sir, I don't have time to explain everything right now, but here's the thing. There are multiple accounts under your TFN, alright? And if we do not resolve this, there will be legal consequences, okay? Do you understand the severity of this?
Well, not really. What, multiple accounts? What are you talking about? I only have one.
There are 12 business entities registered under your TFN with transactions flagged for GST fraud and lodgement inconsistencies. Have you ever heard of Bitstamp or CoinSpot?
Yeah, those are crypto sites, right? I don't use them.
Exactly, but we have records of transactions under your TFN, large payments routed through CoinJar and offshore accounts in Singapore. Do you recall authorizing a transaction to a Bitcoin wallet?
A wallet ID? What? No, I don't even know what that means.
Sir, I need you to stay calm. The AFP and ATO are monitoring this situation closely. If we don't clarify your role in these transactions, I'll have no choice but to escalate this to the Federal Circuit Court.
Court? You've got to be kidding me. I didn't send any money.
Sir, that's why we're calling, because someone has used your TFN fraudulent. Otherwise, the
I'm just fast forwarding.
Home today to arrest you.
That seems really dodgy.
Sir, this is not a joke. Do you want me to?
Right. So what happens to me?
Your bank account will be frozen.
All right, you got the
as a
gist of it, right?
precaution. Hi there, this is Eric calling from
This is the
Health
US,
Benefits Center.
the US persona.
I'm reaching out to people
American.
in your area.
Who's the
to
American in the
check
room
if you
earlier?
might qualify
Yeah.
for some new federal programs that can reduce healthcare costs. Are you currently on Medicare?
Who's calling again? Did you say Health Benefits Center?
Yes, ma'am. We work with licensed providers to help people access additional benefits, dental, vision, prescriptions, even transportation in some areas. It's a quick eligibility check. Are you on Medicare right now or something else?
Oh, Medicare sounds right. I think I still am. Unless something's changed and they forgot to tell me. But sorry, what was your name?
Eric Thomas. This will only take a couple of minutes. I just need...
I'd love to play more,
Perfect.
but we'll fast forward
That's
those.
West Bloomfield, right?
Wow, you know your stuff. You must have one of those fancy maps in front of you.
All right.
Now, if you
Another one.
scroll down the page, if you go down to the third page, go to the third page.
Yep, I
Do
see
you
account
see there it
charges
says,
bit here.
Yeah, go to the third
Which section you mean
page.
data
Yeah.
and plan?
Do you see it says account charges for this bill? Do you see that in a blue?
All
Yeah,
right.
just go down. Yeah, go to the third
Third
go
section.
to the third go to the third
Phone
section
summary.
where it says
Yep.
Optus phone summary
Spotted it.
or internet summary. Do you see internet summary?
Scrolling right, what? Just stop when I see mark
Yeah, go to
internet
the-
summary. Yeah.
Go scroll down. You scroll down. You see internet summary.
Yeah, there's
In a blue
a
box,
dry
it
box.
says-
Yep. Says service
Yeah,
plan and
just
some
below
numbers.
internet summary, there is a gray box where it says your service plan. Do you see that? On a gray,
Hmm.
yes, your
Says
service plan, your username, your
right there. Then a bunch of
yes,
letters
and just below
after,
service plan, you see
yeah.
your username, your NBN ABC ID. Do you see that?
Yep.
Your NBN
NBN
ABC ID.
ABTC ID looks like has a big string of letters
third-
there.
And just below that, you see
All right.
NBN.
Definitely my
ABCID.
favorite, but
Bit
I
noisy.
want disclaimer.
And I'm here to call you
All right,
to
last
guide you
one.
ahead. It's basically a CFD trading platform where you start and you start trading. We give you a senior account manager and a portfolio manager who will be managing your assets with you.
All right.
Right.
Just checking. What was Sterling Edge again? Trading what exactly?
Sterling Edge, there will be trading.
Oops, sorry. Oops. What did I do there?
And I'm here to call you to guide you ahead. It's basically a CFD trading platform where you start and you start trading. We give you a senior account manager and a portfolio manager who will be managing your assets with you.
All right.
Right.
Just checking. What was Sterling Edge again? Trading what exactly?
Sterling Edge, there will be trading CFDs, commodities, indices, in stocks.
Sorry. CFDs meaning? I'm not too sure about that.
Contract for differences.
Okay. So, do I just buy the shares or is it something else?
Yeah, basically that. But the thing is, we don't just have share market. We have commodities, indices, foreign exchange. Alright, what basically happens is you make an investment, small amount of investment, let's say $200 or something. Alright, and after that, you start your trading process. We provide you a senior account manager, a portfolio manager that will be managing your assets, and he will be trading, taking you ahead in your trading process. It's very simple.
Okay. So, just so I get this,
Alright.
$200 is that the startup thing?
Yeah, that's the start money, the minimum deposit.
Hang on. Sorry.
If you want to
There's a
trade with
bit
that,
of
you
noise
can go
here.
ahead.
That's the minimum, you mean?
Yeah, that's the minimum, exactly.
Okay, so, what happens, say, if I win or lose, money-wise?
It's not like a gambling application, you win or lose, alright? We have account managers, senior account managers, Those are portfolio managers, all right? The brokerage managers. What they do, they minimize your risk through their analysis. We have top analysis from the world, all right?
Right. So
they make fundamental
the account
and technical
manager,
analysis
do
for
I
you.
have to pay them extra or?
Oh, of course not. Of course not.
Okay. Just wondering, is there any lock in? Like, can I just leave anytime?
Yeah, you can leave anytime. You can withdraw back your $200.
All right. Just sometimes they sting you with fees. Yeah. Are there exit fees?
All right, we'll stop this, but like you got the gist of it, right? I think I'll park it here. There's so many of them. Obviously, I'd love to play those, but like some of these conversations like last forever. And one of the things that are really interesting is, and I've been given clear instructions like not to play these ones. But as you understand, right, like some of these calls go forever, and obviously some of these scammers get so much frustrated that they leave us towards the end of the calls with things that we love to celebrate. And I think we're the only company in the world that keeps track of the number of F words that we're collecting from scammers. True story, right? We do have a board with like the millions of F words that we're getting from scammers. We're so proud of it. I'm not gonna play those. Obviously, the conversations are really multilingual, so we're deployed across different countries, and like, you know, we try really to mimic the population that is really receiving these calls. But I think the one thing that I want to really touch on today, very briefly as well, and I'm going to skip those, is that actually, let's play this one. Okay, I think I played 4 of them. All right, so who thinks it's number 1, if you kept track of it? Number 1 is the human. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 2. Oh, interesting. That's way too many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe 15. Number 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 4. Number 2 wins. Oh, interesting. No one does. In fact, I lied. They're all bots. Sorry. Bad boy. All right. All right, so here's the thing. In fact, voice was just part of it, right? And so we meet scammers wherever they are. And what we really came up with is this view of being cross-channels. So we really are catching and engaging the same logic, right? Engaging scammers across multiple platforms. So currently, Apate bots are on WhatsApp or on Telegram or on Signals, wherever the scammers thrive. We try and meet them for different reasons. So obviously, we're not wasting scammers' time on the text platforms. We're essentially extracting intelligence by engaging them on like WhatsApp. And some of the things that we're engaging, that we're extracting, are all these very, very actionable insights that we can extract from scammers. So without going into too much details, and I think for many of you who would have heard about some of the partnerships that we have here in Australia, but also overseas, some of this intelligence that essentially scammers are really willingly sharing us with, like sharing with us and with our bots. So they are very, very accurate and real-time intelligence because they're coming straight from the scammer's mouth and the keystrokes of the scammers. So very, very accurate data, but also very real-time that we feed into the disruption pipelines of our partners, essentially to help them prevent the scam from happening before it's too late. One big challenge of scam intelligence has always been the fact that we rely on basically you and I to report these scams, right, in one way or the other. So that intel very often comes in, kind of sloppy way, right, and it's not necessarily very, very accurate. But also it relies worse on, like victim reports that either they come, too late after, the scam loss has happened across multiple victims. And also very often it's really outdated. If you're lucky, they're probably a couple of days late. If you're really realistic about it, they're coming like a couple of months, actually, like for that intel to be shared amongst banks and telcos and, social media platforms and the like. And this is essentially the way of really becoming super, super proactive about it and collecting that intel as it's happening in real time. So that's what we build. Now, I want to really, just in the interest of time, I'm going to skip lots of this, but I want to tell you a little bit what is under the hood in just a couple of minutes, and then I think I'll stop. this is all the insights, and there's a platform that enables the extraction, you know, and like setting the mission. We call these really armies of bots. So we send them on a mission, and you can really kind of ask them to extract and to play a little bit with the scammers out there and to extract as much data as you want. I won't really expand on that. But what I want to show you is this really, which is how we're building these very realistic voices. And I'll touch on a few fundamental things without going too much into details, of course. One of the very first challenges that we had to deal with was obviously this element of delay, right? Or like latency when the bots are kind of coming back to the scammer, responding to the scammer. And there is one big trick that we humans play that essentially inspired us. And that very simple human trick is called disfluencies, right? So if you ask me a question, or like if you're really having a conversation, like human-to-human conversation, 350 milliseconds is what we really expect each other to have as a form of delay to come back to each other in like, you know, a normal human conversation. So if I stop talking for more than 350 milliseconds, you'll find this quite awkward, right? And we don't want, obviously, the scammers to find the conversations with the bots awkward. So we introduced a few tricks. One of the tricks is really like these back channeling and disfluencies. So the and you know and the and all of that you probably have heard in some of these conversations. So while the bots are really thinking about what sort of stuff they should be coming back with to the scammer, they're playing these and you know, they're sometimes laughing or whatever, depending on their emotion, depending on what's the inferred emotion that they're extracting from the scammer as well. We read the emotion of the scammer as well to be very full aware of the context. So that's one big thing, and we call this a conversational controller, if you like, right? And that's really like the, you know, like the chef d'orchestre, if I want to say it in French, that essentially kind of gives the roles and like plays the symphony there when it comes to the speech. The other big thing that we have, and I want to really sort of share this with you because I think that's obviously a massive breakthrough that we cracked, is what we call the shared mental model, right? So the bots conversation that you've heard on the voice, most of them are really optimized for long conversation. Like they're really trying to maximize the duration of the conversation there. One big thing that we do there is to make bots compete against each other. So you have actually these thousands of bots deployed across different areas and across different regions and like engaging scammers. They constantly compete against each other, right? And many of you would have heard about this notion of reinforcement learning. How many people? Yeah, all right, many. So very, very simple adaptation of reinforcement learning for our bots competing against each other. And in very simple terms, it sounds like this. If you have outperformed the average of all the other bots in terms of your mission, which is maximizing the duration of the calls, right? You give yourself a carrot, a reward, and you go, fantastic strategy. Next time you connect with a scammer, keep doing the same thing. But if you essentially perform less than the average of all the other bots, you go, bad bot, you've been really stupid. Next time, change your strategy. Now, here's the trick. We don't always tell the bots whether they've been rewarded or whether they've been penalized. So we keep them in an eternal sort of chase of the best performance they can do. They're always kind of, you know, in a hurry to make sure that they beat all the others. That's a trick. Don't tell them we'll do this, please. The other thing which is super, super important in what we build is this element of context. We call this it's a very, very, you know, from an information theory point of view, it's a very, very classic model that we adapt there, which is a hidden Markov model. So here's in a nutshell what it is, right? The bots, when they start a conversation, they initially start with thousands of possible contexts that they'll have to deal with, right? They don't know what the scammer is about to tell them. But in the first few utterances, they converge towards a possible few selections and a possible few options. And then they keep converging. Generally, and typically within the first 3-4 turns of a scammer, they know exactly what the scammer is after. And so they'll know exactly what the scammer is about to develop. And one of the things that happens there in these, hidden Markov model is that the bots will essentially try to read probabilities all the time about what's the next move the scammer is going to be and how they would like to play a strategy that keep them in the same status of the conversations, right, and the same theme of the conversation. And if they fail, they'll try to come back to the previous one. And if they deem the probability of coming back to the previous stage is too tough, it's too difficult, they'll start really maximizing the probability that you stay in the same stage. Feels like, one of those things where my wife is trying to keep me to talk about the same topic and I'm trying to move to the next one, but it's reverse. It's like I'm playing the anti-bot thing there. So there's a little bit of that is happening. And so to close this and to conclude, one of the things that I'd love to imagine is happening today with our fleet of bots being deployed out there is to imagine a world where there's a little bit of like one of these dartboards out there in some of these scam syndicates offices where people and scammers are getting so frustrated that they come up with this and they're kind of hitting us we're frustrating them so much that we're thinking we're making a dent in this fight against scam. Hopefully helping, making the digital world a better place. So if you are not there yet, please share the world and help really build this bigger and bigger army here in Australia, but also nationally against these scammers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dali. Fascinating. We didn't want it to end, and you can see how we could hold a scammer on a call for 45 minutes, can't you? I think I was giving little sort of hand signals, but I felt like the Apate bot trying to, Oh, no, I'm not sure who was who there, but it was fantastic, so fascinating, and a real innovation in AI. Now, I'm sure you have so many questions, and we've got 4 minutes. So where do we start? So keep them super short, and hand up if anyone in the audience would like a question, and if you're online, I'll get Dan to do a triage. First question, down the back there.
Hi, question for Dali. You presumably have thousands of hours of scammers talking at your bots at this point. Can you guys potentially simulate scammers to help train new bots? I mean, presumably with that amount of data, you could probably create a pretty realistic scammer.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And in fact, millions of hours of calls now. And yeah, we do that. And in fact, essentially, to some extent, the reinforcement learning is helping in doing that.
Would the scammers be AI-driven now rather than real people?
Yes, we do already see that AI versus AI is at play in many of the deployments. And in fact, I'm going to be really providing this a potentially shocking answer, but I'd love to see a world where there is an AI versus AI type of conversation only. We keep the conversations between AI from the scammer and our AI bots running for about 5 to 7 minutes now to extract intelligence, and then we drop it. We detect that this is AI bots calling us. But imagine a world where we as humans are just watching Apate bots fighting other scammers' bots and vice versa, and we're immune from that sort of thing. That's really the shield that we're aiming to build.
It's a whole new version of The Voice. I wonder if we've got one online there, Dan, if you could sum up what's happening.
Yeah, one for Suneel. Will the ability to detect AI fakes become available to the public or be held in the realms of defence?
Can you say that again, Dan?
Will the ability to detect AI fakes become available to the public, or is that going to be contained within defence?
No, the intent is to make it widely available. So lifting tides is what we are about. Yep.
Got a follow-up, if I can, for both Suneel and Dali. Are we collaborating internationally to combat deep fakes, considering many of the models are created and released overseas? And can the private sector handle these scenarios without a coordinated international effort?
So I'll go first. Yeah, short answer is yes. We work quite intimately with our international partners, primarily in the Five Eyes countries, but broadly as well in the Indo-Pacific area as well, particularly in the Indo-Pacific area.
I'll go very brief. We're weaponizing AI, so we're using deepfakes for good.
My question is primarily for Suneel. You mentioned how convincing the AI fakes are. Do you foresee a time, or has it already happened, where real humans will struggle to prove the reality of their existence and their experiences?
You know what? There's a philosophical element to that. Yes. Short answer. That's why we bring, it's not just a technological from a hard science perspective, we bring the human experience into this as well to answer those questions, right? To what extent we get into psychological challenges for human beings in this process. So long-winded way of saying yes, we're at that point.
Just today, my son came home from school and he had been accused of using AI on a maths test, and he said no AI would ever do a maths test this badly. And also, he has to prove that he didn't use AI. So that it's a really interesting, great questions. I think, can we just blow out for 5 minutes? So many questions. In the back there, I think, is there? Oh, sorry, down the front here. I'm going to get some movement on that.
Hi, Suneel. This one's for you. Just wondering, is there any sort of discernible pattern in the bytecode of deepfakes that you can detect? And if not, is there some role for something like PKI or digital signing in the publishing of these? For important, say, the President of the United States or whoever, to combat deepfakes?
Yeah, so the short answer is that they are, so that they leave residual marks, but this is the arms race that I was referring to. They're getting smarter and smarter to make that less and less obvious. So what we're trying to do is find other indicators beyond the actual code artifacts, but more behavioral artifacts or to the liveness test, the other things that should bring to bear. Do you have a view?
I would remember my question now. So whether or not it's a bot that's ringing another bot, if they've got some information already about the person they're ringing, how do you manage to have the right age group or gender for the person who's answering the call? And a second question while I'm here, more for Suneel, has the number of fingers improved in deepfakes?
Do you want to start with that one?
No.
I thought it would be. I think we don't do that, literally because we're casting this wide net, and every single time there is a connection on the voice part. On the text is a different thing, and we can really go into the details there. But on the voice part, the idea is to essentially mimic a population of individuals, by the millions, ideally the hundreds of millions, so that every time a scammer calls, they fall into a very, very, very unique profile, right? And one of the big things that we do there is to make sure that the bots are never fingerprintable, if you like, and they don't leave a signature, right? Hence the way that they really operate differently, even if they come with the exact same persona by any miracle, right? Even though the numbers of personas are massive in a way that a scammer is never going to be, figuring out that this is something that they heard before.
I think one last question.
Yes, so when disinformation rises to the level of official government statements, then what can defence do to identify disinformation when it becomes politically inconvenient to do so?
Do you mind if I pass on that? Because it goes beyond the technology that I play with. But it's a valid question, and it's a policy question that we're grappling with at the moment. So I can't give you a definitive answer, but it's an excellent question.
I think that was the correct answer, Suneel. That's why.
We might have one bonus question in down the front here. Thank you. Sorry, this. Very diplomatic.
Mine really is just a comment and a big thank you for the amazing presentation. If we think about STEM education and getting the next generation interested, what cooler project can I think of as an example of how you can apply that? So thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Joe. On that, just on summing up, what would you like us to go away with knowing, understanding, doing, thinking about in this space?
I'll start. Actually, I think, Apate has been really a journey, like I said, that started as a cool research project. And I think it really, and I keep repeating and shouting this all over the roofs, but if not for the, initial beliefs from a discovery project that was there thinking, oh, this is an intriguing, cool type of science, let's just fund it, we would not have made it, right? And, currently we're really, and with different ways, it's really like a commercial success, and obviously, ideally would like to grow further and so on, but if not for the fact that we started this as a research project, as just a, kind of curiosity-driven type of project that, a agency out there that is funding research within a university believed in, none of this would have happened. And I think, lots of what we're doing in Australia should be driven by that considerations of, yeah, this is cool, this is intriguing, let's just be pioneers in this space. And I think we can do it, right, in so many different ways and in so many areas.
And almost sacrilege for technologists to say this, but I would say engage in the fullness of the topic, like more than just the technology, but the ethics, the policies, the approaches. I think that's what we need.
And I think you guys have done that by being here tonight online in the room with us, for just hearing such wonderful speakers come to us today. And thank you both for joining us tonight. Thank you also to our conveners for supporting this 2025 lecture series, Professor Bob Graham, who's the Vice President and Secretary of Biological Scientists here at the Academy of Science, and Professor Ian Chubb, another Fellow of the Academy of Science. Disfluencies? That's a word I've never heard. No, I'm going to be using it often.
Pause, I think.
Pause. I pause for too long. I'm obviously not a human. But on that, thank you for teaching us so much. Please, everyone, stay safe, stay alert, and don't answer your phones.